Hey, welcome everybody. My name is Paula Kettula. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and I am the owner and founder of Porta Verum Psychotherapy Services. I love what I do and it has been my mission to help people support their mental health and really contribute to their healing from trauma, decrease anxieties, as well as heal through depression. The main mission of Porta Verum Psychotherapy Services is to create empowerment, to help people be connected with one another, and also to create joy, love, and connection in their lives. Today, I am interviewing one of my amazing therapists. Her name is Robin Anderson. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist, and she works with our clients from a deep perspective. That means that we're not just solving surface level issues and problems. When you work with Robin, she will challenge you to go deep. She will challenge you to look at yourself in the mirror and reflect on the things that are coming up for you. And she's going to challenge you to really go to the root cause of issues so that you, whether you're a couple working with Robin or individually, that those underlying issues can be resolved. And through that, transformation becomes possible. So today, I'm going to have a conversation with Robin about what she thinks are the main issues that are coming in the way for couples and in their relationship and connection and happiness. And we're going to also talk about how she works with individuals as well. So welcome, Robin, and thank you so much for carving out time from your busy schedule to have this conversation.
Thanks, Paula, and what a great introduction. Geez, that was wonderful.
Well, when you have an amazing therapist like you to introduce it, it's very easy. So let us begin. I want to start with your work with couples first, because I know that's near and dear to your heart and you feel very passionate about that. So tell me, in your experience, what are the biggest challenges couples face that lead them to seek therapy in the first place? And how do you address these challenges with your couples?
So the couples that come in to see me are experiencing some conflict that they have a hard time getting through, and overall a sense of disconnection between them. So whether that's a couple of years, whether that's 20 years or more, they're experiencing a deep disconnection from each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same thing with me too. I also see couples, and that's usually the biggest issue is this drifting apart. And what do you see? Is there like certain causes for that? Like, why do couples disconnect? Why do they drift apart?
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of them, especially when they have new families, there's a lot of repositioning of roles and priorities, and I think that it can disrupt the primary couple, if you will, and it's yeah. I mean, I think that there's just so many reasons that can cause that disconnection. Work, the busyness of life that we all experience, and not really taking the time to connect with each other, to really connect, to really check in. You know, how are you feeling? What was the most challenging part of your day today? What was the best part of your day today? So I think that couples experience a lot of just getting into the day-to-day routine of things, of life, and so they forget to really remember that person is right there for them.
Yeah. So what need nurturing, they need attention. I like to think of relationship as like a plant. The plant or flower needs watering, and if we don't give water, adequate water, soil, sunlight, whatever they need, then the plant will die. And that's where I also see couples start struggling. So how do you work with your couples to help them reconnect? Like, what are some ways that you support your couples in creating that intimacy and connection and trust?
Yeah. So I've been trained in EFT, emotionally focused therapy, and I love the model because it really identifies the root cause of why people become disconnected or become in conflict, and I use that model to really bring the couples back together. So we identify what the negative cycle is between them. And I think it's really important to note that when there are couples that are in high conflict with each other, they tend to want to blame each other, right? And I think it's a really, really dangerous road to go down. So I really try to work to make sure the couple is knowing that the way that they're interacting is the enemy and not their partner. So yeah, we work to uncover these core wounds and the core attachment needs that we all have in us. That those needs might be, the need to feel loved, the need to be heard, the need to be accepted, to be understood, to know that your partner is there for you and vice versa. And that's really what I strive to bring them back together in that sense. So and be there for each other.
Yeah. And that is such a beautiful process to witness when couples do get on the same team, really. Let's get on the same page, same team, and understanding like there is no blame or shame or anything like that. There's just human suffering and pain and our own wounds. Do you see that a lot where people's own unresolved wounds come in the way of the relationship and are manifested and expressed in those conflicts that happen? Can you talk a little bit about that, and how do you help people see that, hey, maybe this is some unresolved thing that is coming up here for you?
Yes, absolutely. I would say that most of the time conflict is due to some unresolved emotional wounds in us that may have happened a long time ago when we were kids. So just like I was talking about the attachment needs, we need to feel that we are seen and that we are heard. And oftentimes when I'm working with couples, we identify that particular need wasn't actually met for them as a child too. And so I do work with these individuals within the couple dyad that to really bring them down to their most primary emotion, which is really difficult for some people, but that's really where that amazing change and growth comes from. So yeah.
And what could you say to couples who are maybe thinking about wanting to start therapy and they're a little bit unsure, and a lot of people are, of course, kind of nervous and not knowing what's going to happen? I guess my question is like, what would set them up for success? Like, what kind of mindset do you need to have to really benefit from couples therapy?
The mindset that I think would be really beneficial for couples to have is to know that they are going to be able to change and grow if they are open with each other and vulnerable. One of the phrases that I love to say is within vulnerability is connection. So it's going to take some digging to get to the issues, but once they're there, and I witness these couples have these really beautiful transformative connections, and it's just really, it's amazing. That's why I do my work.
Same here. And I love that reminder that connection happens through that vulnerability. And being vulnerable is not weakness. It takes courage.
Oh yeah.
So courage is required to be vulnerable, to open our hearts to the other person. And that's, I think for me too, is like sometimes the saddest and the most hopeful thing working with couples is that they love each other. Like I'm sure you get people like totally in opposite pages, but we are here because we love each other.
Right.
Right. And
Absolutely.
sometimes it's just the path of, okay, learning to accept oneself and the other person and learning that unconditional love, meeting your own needs and being there to meet the needs of the other person as well from this deep emotional needs and attachment perspective.
Right. And I think I think couples get so far buried in the little wounds that have built up over time. Like it's just, I think that's really can tear a couple apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get stuck in that loop
Mhm.
and oftentimes get stuck in an argument, like the same thing over and over again. And the arguments are never about what they are on the surface level,
Right.
right? There's
Right.
always something more underneath that. That's usually a big revelation for people like, oh, wow, this thing we are arguing, the laundry laying on the floor is actually not about the laundry laying on the floor.
Right. Uh-huh. Yeah. It could be some very unmet needs of I don't matter to you. My needs don't
Right.
matter to
Yeah.
you.
Right. I don't matter. I'm not important. You're not paying attention to me.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's I need support. But the beauty of the work with couples also is that opportunity to grow within that. When it becomes a safe container for growth and transformation,
Yeah.
then the growth and transformation, I believe, is greater in a relationship than what we could achieve all by ourselves.
Yes, I do too. Yeah, I
Oh.
agree. Hmm.
Well, thank you so much, Robin, for that discussion about couples and couples therapy. Let's transition to talk about your work with individual clients. Now, I know you and I, we've had a lot of conversations about therapy and how to support people the best. And one of the things that you talk a lot to me about is people having these different parts and especially the wounded part. So tell me and tell us the listeners a little bit about what these wounded parts are and how does it help them to have insight into those wounded parts and learn to recognize them and how is it possible to heal from those? And if people do heal, then what opens up through that?
Right. So our wounded parts are these parts that we developed usually when we were younger, and we just sort of carried them with us like baggage, along the way. And they're parts of us that feel we're not enough, or we're too much, or we don't matter, or we're not wanted, or we're not loved, all of those wounded parts. And we take those into our adult lives, our adult relationships, work, family, and they come out anytime that you experience some profound emotions that come up for you. Those are usually some wounded part that's like poking its head up and saying, hey, pay attention to me. I'm not
Yeah.
feeling heard, or I'm not feeling loved, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So,
So how do you guide people through that healing then? Like, can you give us some ideas, maybe even some practical strategies on because it can feel so big, so overwhelming, like, oh my gosh, like this part of me that's feeling unimportant, I don't matter, it's been there for a long time and it feels very stuck and it feels very deep. So how do you start healing, helping people heal through those that woundedness?
right. First of all, I think it's really important to establish safety and comfort within the therapeutic relationship. And because really, once that's there, then we can do the deeper work.
Mm.
But once that safety and comfort is there, and that trust, then I do a lot of somatic guidance. So, a client will come to me and they'll talk about something that really upset them over the week. And so we'll become curious. We'll explore, like, what is that for you? What does it feel like in your body? What is the emotion that's coming up for you? And then we'll kind of trace it down to see if it leads back to any time in their past where they maybe felt like, they weren't heard, or they were not enough, or whatever that early belief is. So once we identify that, then we really separate that child part out from like who you are at your core, like your core adult, wise, loving, nurturing, logical self. And then I'll lead you through a process to help heal that wounded part, that child part inside of you, so that you can essentially reparent yourself in some of these ways. Many of us, of course, we don't get 100% great parenting. Our parents did the best that they could, and they loved us, so much, at least most of the time, right? And we just need to do some finessing for things that we might have needed at certain times.
Yeah. So just to kind of summarize what I heard in that, it begins with this awareness and recognition that there is this wounded part, because in my experience, some people don't even realize, like, when we start talking about wounded parts and the inner child, it's usually the inner child, then it's like, wow, I didn't even know that part of it exists, right? So it's creating that relationship also with that wound itself.
Exactly.
Learn to integrate and embrace that part of us into who we are as a whole.
Right. It helps people because it allows them to contextualize that this is separate from them and that it's just not all of them.
Yeah. Creates almost like this a little bit of distance. Like, it's like, okay, the adult self can become an observer of this wounded child, feeling hurt, being in pain, having tantrums sometimes. Usually it's this wounded parts of us that have a big old tantrum as an adult self, right?
Yeah. Usually the spiciness where that wounded child is coming up.
Yeah.
Where there's a lot of emotion.
Yeah. So I'm hearing a lot of hope in that, hey, we can actually reparent. We can do this inner parenting. I can't remember where this saying comes from. I'm sure somebody wiser and more experienced person than myself said it, but it's this idea, it's never too late to have a happy childhood, which means that we can, through this transformation and healing, of course, we can't change what actually happened, but we can have a different perspective and create some meaning out of that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I love being the holder of hope for people.
Yeah, I can tell that. I know that about you, that my personal interactions with you are always positive, and I love your positive mindset. And because without that hope, we don't change unless we have some hope for a better future. It's really difficult to take the next step forward.
Right.
Yeah. How about self-esteem? Let's talk a little bit about that too, because I know that's also near and dear to your heart. So tell me a little bit about, why do you believe self-esteem is such a critical component of mental health care and well-being, and how do you usually address that with your clients in terms of repairing their self-esteem?
So I feel like self-esteem and self-worth are the same, and it's really about how you are honoring yourself and how you have compassion for yourself and love for yourself. I do the same process with working on those inner child wounds and healing those. Really trying to quiet down the negative self-talk, which I know happens for so many of us. I really try to, I think people think raising your self-esteem is about, going and pampering yourself and getting your nails done or whatever that is for people. And sure, those are great, but it's also really about holding those commitments that you've made to yourself, holding strong to those, committing to reducing the type of negative self-talk that you're doing, honoring your needs and speaking up for your needs and setting boundaries, even when it's really scary. So yeah, those are just a few handful, a handful of ways that I really work with clients on that.
Yeah, and that's such a good reminder what you kind of were talking right now of how therapy is actually very practical. Like this
Yeah.
building of self-esteem, building a different relationship with yourself. Most of the therapy work happens between the sessions through
Mhm.
these decisions and actions and you being in integrity with yourself, like instead of having these broken promises towards yourself. So a lot of the work then is in between sessions and really rebuilding that relationship with yourself.
Right. Yes. I can be your guide, but I can't make you do it. So,
Mhm.
and I know that I see so much success with people who decide to really work on themselves in between sessions. It's really amazing. It's really transformative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like Robin said, she's here to guide you and to really give you that direction where to go. And I could imagine that at the end of each session, you will probably give people some practical homework. I don't know if you want to call it homework or some practice or intention to focus on
Right.
between the session.
I do, and it's not so formulative or formulaic. It's more about I really like to connect with the client and determine what speaks to them. So some of my clients are very visual and they like to create things, and so they've done some really incredible work healing themselves through art or through creating. And then some of my clients, I mean, that's just an example, um, but some of my clients really do like the homework, right? And so we'll figure out, okay, so what is this going to look like for you? And then just really practicing honoring yourself in whatever form that is. Maybe it's like, okay, I'm going to get to the gym one day a week or this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just really, it's, everybody's an individualized session, right? It's like everybody's unique and individual, and I work with them in exactly who they are and what
I
they need.
love that. Yeah,
Mhm.
I love that. So also important is for clients to let you know what works for them and what doesn't work and all
Yes,
that. So it's like getting this feedback as well.
absolutely.
So,
Hmm.
right. Well, thank you so much for taking your time for this interview today, Robin. My last question is there anything else you would want to say to somebody who is considering therapy? Like, they're not quite sure whether it's individual or couples therapy, like anything that you can think of to share with them that might support them in making this big decision.
Yeah. I know that going to therapy and finding the right therapist is a really big, scary step at times or sometimes. And I would just say choose somebody who you feel really comfortable with. So the modalities, the strategies, all of that are probably going to matter less than the connection that you have with your therapist.
Absolutely. That needs to be the starting point, kind of what you said earlier, because that without that safety and
Right.
that connection, then nothing really is possible. So I love that advice to just connect with somebody that you really feel that personal connection. And it's
Absolutely.
it's okay to talk to different therapists. Like that's what we do also here in Porta Verum. You can go to our website and click on the tab that says Meet the Team, and you will see all of our profiles there. And you can reach out to us and schedule a consultation with us, including Robin. So if you want to just have a little chat, then that would be a good opportunity to have a little meet and greet.
Right. That's exactly right.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you so much, Robin, for your time and all the wonderful work of transformation that you do with your clients. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much, Paula. Appreciate you.
If you're wondering whether therapy is right for you, why not book a free 15-minute consultation with Robin? It's absolutely free and there's no obligation. A quick mental health check and recommendations from a therapist can guide you towards the right solution.